Right, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Tusik Talks podcast. Today we're doing something a little bit different. It's been a while since I had a little sit down chat with myself with no friends, and I thought it'd be a good time to do it. This week we hit a little milestone, and I feel like this milestone needs to be not celebrated but kind of acknowledged in a way. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Don't even know how long this is going to be. We're kind of just going off the dome. I wrote a couple of things down, but nothing too scripted. And I think that's the joy in podcasting and the joy in social media. You can kind of just speak your mind sometimes. And I really feel like over the last two episodes, especially, we did speak our mind. And that is the reason why they've been two of the best performing podcasts that we've actually done, which is funny, but I'll get into that a little later on. But yeah, we hit 1,000 downloads today, or not today, last week, and it was obviously a cool number to hit. It's not like, again, we constantly really check that number. Normally I'm someone for data and going into the weeds on how we can improve and things like that. And maybe I think with the podcast we've kind of not taken a step back, but and not taking it seriously, because we definitely do take it very, very seriously. Um, but we're not really too focused on numbers. We're not really like, oh, how can we improve? And again, maybe that's something that we can get into, into the new year. But especially right now, we aren't really too focused on, or we haven't really been too focused on the number. And when we hit 1K, it was kind of like, wow, like great, what next kind of thing. I even sent it to Kieran, and like there was no real like, you know, congratulations, pop the champagne moment because like it's not a massive number. But like I said in the start, like I do think it is a small milestone that kind of has to be recognized and acknowledged, because you know so many podcasts start and fail within the first episode. So many podcasts then fail after 10, so many podcasts fail after 20. And I think there's a percentage of like all that number, it's such a small percentage that actually continue on past 20. Um, and it's cool. Like it is cool to have kept it going through thick and thin, through a lot of crazy things that have happened this year. It is one thing that we've maintained, and we really started only posting in March time, I think it was, maybe the end of February, sometime around then. And since then we've done 20. This will be episode 23 now. So it is cool to have maintained that. And as we get into our goals for next year, it's an episode that we're gonna probably do together. But like growing a podcast was not a part of my goals for last year, because I really didn't have the desire to do it. And I think when, I've probably told the story a few times, but when Kieran came to me with the idea that he wanted to start one, and I just said, like, do it, man. Like, what's stopping you? Obviously, the whole motto, just start. I was like, just do it. Like, stop being a pussy. And I said to him, I said, okay, here's a bet. You must have your first episode uploaded by March. That was the bet, and we shook on it. So I was like delighted when that was him taking action. And of course, then it got me thinking, it got me overthinking maybe. And I seen how, literally from only a couple of chats with Kieran, and I've known Kieran for years, but it was really only that couple of conversations that I had. I was like, wow, I really align with this guy. Like we kind of have the same outlook on life, and we've had, I wouldn't say a traumatic experience, but like we've had an eye-opening experience and an eye-opening couple of years. We've gone through a lot of the same things, playing sport, growing up in Ireland, being a little different, then moving away from home, moving to America, like all things that we had in common. And again, it was like, why not do it with him? And that's when I posed the idea that we do it together. And I was, I don't even know if you noticed this, but I was like, I was worried that he wouldn't want to do it with me. and do it under like obviously my brand. Like Tusig is me, and it's like he wanted to do that on his own, and I was worried that he was going to say no. But luckily he said yeah. Luckily he came on board, and I'm so glad that we've grown and done it together, because again, yes, it's a podcast. Yes, it's shared online, but there's so many things that I've learned from him, and hopefully I've taught him um, over the past year. Like I said, I'm so glad that we've done it together, and I really do class him as a friend now, more so than just a co-host, because again, there isn't many people that you can have conversations like this with, and I think if you do find people who you can have deep conversations with, you can have valuable and learning conversations with, you need to keep them close, man, because the thing is, there are a lot of people that you just have surface level conversations with, and that's fine. I think if that's what you really want, go ahead. I'm not someone that really enjoys surface level conversations. I love deep, like, conspiracy theories. The boys here, they know that I love conspiracy theories, but it's it's great to have someone who you can just sit down and it's not even counseling, like, on a weird way, it is, in a sense, because you're talking about your feelings, you're talking about deep shit, and we just happen to share it with the world. I was only thinking there recently as well how there's probably so many people, like, obviously relative, but so many people who know me and know my story that I don't even know, and that I don't even know their story. And it's like, that's kind of scary in a way, but that's what you have to do, man. That's what you have to do. You have to put yourself out there a bit, and that's kind of what we've done. And 1,000 downloads is a cool milestone in a sense, because this is a moment in time where hopefully in a year, 2 years, 3 years time, we can look back on and say, wow, like, that was their mindset at that moment in time, or they done so well to get to that stage, being in college and having to deal with all the other shit that comes with it. And it is a cool thing. Like, I think maybe I'm underplaying the fact that 1,000 downloads is because it's relative, again, comparing yourself with the big guys, but 1,000 downloads is a lot more than, someone who never started, in a way. So, like I said, it is a cool milestone that we've hit. And I think it is a moment in time that I'm going to look back on in a couple of years. And that's why I'm honestly making this video or this podcast, is because it's something that, like I said, we can look back on when we hit, I don't know, 100K downloads sometime in the future. And it's like, yeah, that was cool. That was a cool moment. Just going to take a sip of water. Normally I take my little water breaks when Kieran is waffling, but I have to maybe pause this when when I'm having my sup. But yeah, I think this year was a very interesting year. Like I said, I'm gonna make a proper episode on reflections of the year and goals for the next year. Maybe there are even two separate episodes, but we're gonna do that together, and I think it'll be nice to truly reflect together on what we've done, because again, like I said, we are good friends now, and we do come together every week and have a chit chat or whatever, and we talk with editing and stuff like that. But, like, we're not intertwined in our lives, and we do have separate lives. And even though we've shared our mindset and shared our thoughts, we're still not 100%, like, I don't want to say aligned, but like together in our journeys, if you know what I mean. We're kind of like just the friend and this the friend that you have that you see once a month, but whenever you see each other, you're just best mates still. That's kind of like our relationship. So maybe it'll be nice to fully reflect on what has gone on this year. But for me, obviously the last 6 months have been very, very tough. I don't even know if I've really shown it on the content, or if I probably probably have stopped talking about it, but the content hasn't really taken a hit. More so, probably been I've probably uploaded more content, because of the injury, and obviously it's a big part of my life, not being able to play sport and not being able to do what I love. But you know, on another level, I've dealt with the injury. I've dealt with the whole impending retirement, I think, quite well. And although it is, like I said, it's a tough time, and it definitely has been a challenging 6 months. It's been an extremely quick 6 months in terms of, when I got back from Boston with the injury. Um, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know where the year was going to take me. I felt like not being able to play would prolong this semester, and obviously me, as I'm entering my final year in college, I'm kind of like ready to leave, ready to be done. And with something like an injury that big, I honestly thought it was just going to make this year and make this semester drag for so long. And I think, on one hand, I still don't necessarily know the final answer of what is wrong with me. For those technical people, they're saying it's a labrum tear and a fracture in the acetabulum, which is kind of like not good. The labrum needs surgery, but hopefully the fracture is healed in the meantime. But I'll hopefully find out in the next couple of weeks what it is, what it finally is. Don't really trust the doctors here, to be honest, but that's another story. But yeah, I think when you've been hit with a blow like that, it can be very easy to kind of crawl up into a ball and cry yourself to sleep. And I definitely think I didn't do that, which is indicative of growth and a a cool thing to look back on in terms of, it shows how much I've grown. And I always talk about the setbacks are an opportunity to grow, and they most definitely are. And I'm happy with, I'm content with all of the setbacks that I've experienced over the past year, over the past 4 years, and kind of since I've been somewhat awake. And when you get to a point where you can appreciate all that you've learned from all of those bad times, that's how you know that you've grown, and that's how you know that excuse me, that's how you know that you've done well. And I'm so glad that that's the case. Like I said, it's been tough. It has definitely been tough, and I think maybe Kieran and maybe only a couple of people know how I've been dealing with it. And luckily, I've come out the other side. Whether the injury is not healed, but mentally I'm good, which is cool. And that's kind of why, like, the content hasn't really taken a hit, because I've had time to create content. I've had time to think more deeply about things. And although I love playing ball and I would have loved being involved with the team this year, on one hand, I'm still not like overly upset that I missed it, because the content and building this brand that I want to build takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of sacrifices. And if I had to devote my time elsewhere, I definitely wouldn't have had the time to create and build as and like I wanted to. So definitely, as I as I go into 2025, there's a lot of things that I want to achieve, and there's obviously, like I said, I'm going to make a full episode on this, but growing and growth is the main priority. Whether that be physically, spiritually, mentally, all those type of things, with the content, with the brand, all of those type of things are the goal. 2025 is for growth. And I think if you can go into every single year with that mindset, maybe you've done well. So I think when it comes to looking back at 2024, I'm content with what has happened. I'm happy with how everything played out, even though I had an unfortunate end to the season. But again, taking responsibility for that and putting myself out and playing and that's just what comes with taking risks. So like I said, I'm happy with how 2024 has gone. We'll get more and deep into it on a separate episode. But like I said, I think when it comes to personally, when it comes to growing the podcast and growing the brand, I think 2024 was a very successful year. And yeah, 2025 is going to be big, man. I have to say, I'm going to need to start taking more of these water breaks. I'm going to end up with a sore throat. But 2025 is going to be a massive year for me personally, for the brand, and for the podcast too. You know, the podcast is only just a small portion of what I'm trying to build. Obviously, it's not small by no means. It's going to be probably a large portion of what the brand stands for and what the brand is, and not many people really know the business model or whatever you want to call it. Like, but maybe I'll get into that again in a future episode when things get rolling. But 2025 is going to be a massive year for the podcast, mainly because we do have some cool guests lined up, and with more guests comes more deep chats, comes more guests, because again, if people realize that we're actually chatting to cool people, we're having deep conversations, we're growing ourselves, growing our brand, people want to get involved. And I think when you can speak to people who you align with, and that's one key thing that we want to emphasize with the brand, with the podcast, is that we really only speak to people who we truly align with. They, let's say, have the same morals, the same values, or we want to hash out something, because again, we're not going to completely agree with every single one of our guests, and that's perfectly fine. It's a conversation. It's not just an opportunity to speak to someone to get followers and podcast and downloads or whatever. It's an opportunity to speak and to learn. And like I said, we have some cool guests lined up that we want to speak to. We have some other guests that are in mind that we want to reach out to. And also, if you're listening to this and you do have something that you want to talk about, let's say you're a trainer or you're an online coach or whatever it may be, it doesn't have to necessarily be in the fitness space. It's kind of what we're aiming for in a way, not necessarily fitness, but more so like holistic health. And that's the things that we want to talk about. Me and Kieran, mindset, health, relationships, all those type of things. That's kind of under one bucket, and we don't want to stray too far from that, in a sense. But we love talking about that type of stuff and bringing on guests, like I said, who align with those things, who can share value to you guys, who can share value to us too. Because again, we're learning from all the guests. We're not just doing it for views. We actually are learning information, and that's why we bring cool people on, and that's why we're planning on bringing some mega guests on in the new year. And I think if we look at last year, we had probably maybe 8 months, 9 months of podcast. If we have another 12 months on top of that, we've already knocked down the inertia, or the wall. Basically, we've just started. We've learned along the way. We had no idea how to start this shit in the start. We had no idea how to make an edit or make a video or whatever. We had to learn all that stuff, and I think we are somewhat competent with it now, both of us, and we share the responsibility and share the roles. And as we grow, I think because we have built up some sort of momentum, it'll be not easy, but it'll be easier to maintain that momentum. Like I said, I'm making this episode now. It's probably only going to take me about an hour in total. It's the same with those episodes with me and Kieran. It may take an hour or two a week, just because we want to script them. And like Kieran's analogy last week, that was really good. The braving one, it's like we need time to think about that stuff. And I think an hour or two a week is definitely not a massive sacrifice. And in some way, we're getting results. And I think results are relative, because results are not just a number on the screen. Results are learning from Kieran learning from me, learning from guests that we bring on. That's a result. It's also the number on the screen that maybe we don't really pay too much attention to just yet. But I think if we had 8 months of that in 2024, going into 2025, if we have 12 months of that, there's no reason why we can't, keep this going and keep this growing, honestly. I see some big growth for this year, and I think the fact that we've overcome a lot of obstacles in the sense that, you know, there's a time difference, or there's a time difference to any guest that we bring on, or even just the fact that, you know, we had to get the microphones, we had to learn the software. Like, these are all things that you have to do at the start that so many people will just quit from. You know, because it's a big hump, it's a big bit of inertia that you have to overcome. That we've overcome it, we've gone out on the other side, and we've recorded 23 episodes now. There's no reason why we can't do 50 next year. You know, plan on doing one a week. And, you know, in the summertime, when it comes to finishing college, it's like, you know, that's the big question. Kieran's pretty set on going home. I'm still not 100% on either. I am kind of swaying towards one, but I'll keep that on the wraps for now. But I think with, like I said, we've done all the hard work. We've done it online for the past year, and, you know, we want to get in a studio session when we're home at Christmas. That's the goal. Maybe even two. And I think growth is also, like I said, the numbers and the guests. More importantly, growth is guests reaching out to us and being like, I actually stand for what you guys stand for too, and we can both mutually benefit from a conversation. You know, and I really believe there's so much value in conversation. There's so much value in sitting one to one with someone, whether it be through a screen. That's just because I'm in the middle of Iowa, in the middle of nowhere. But hopefully, it's a case where we can meet up in person somewhere down the line, wherever in the world may it be, and have conversations. Because that's what we really want to emphasize with this podcast, is that it's okay to talk about this deep shit, man. It's okay to talk and be real with people, because so many people, and we've noticed at home, it's kind of starting to change, which is good to see, but, you know, it's still quite close-minded, and people are scared to talk about things that maybe other people don't talk about. It's like this vicious cycle. People don't talk about things because they're scared that other people don't talk about those things. And it only takes maybe one or two different people to be the face, not be the face, but like be the one that makes a change. And I do feel like at home, and I'm seeing on social media, and I'm seeing that there are some people who are doing good things. And it's so good to see, because in America, let's say, I do believe in America they're a bit more ahead of at home, which is fine. It's just because of the size of the country. Um, but at home now, I am starting to see young people, more importantly, getting out for their run, or getting out and being more active, or talking about personal things online or whatever. And I want to be a part of that. And I think Kieran does too. You know, it's not like we want to be the main influencers in Portmarnock or in Dublin. It's like, there's just young lads more so. That's what we're trying to target. We're trying to speak to young lads and say, like, look, it's okay to be different. It's okay to want to achieve great things. It's okay to stand up for what you believe in, even though other people may think you're a weirdo. Because me and Kieran aren't necessarily weirdos in a way, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to be a weirdo, but we just want to help people understand that it's okay to talk about things. It's okay to be a little bit different, and, you know, hopefully we can be some sort and a part of that going into the next 6 months, and going into the next however many years, you know. But it is hard, especially because it is online, that, you know, you're not getting that physical connection. People aren't putting a face to the name in a way, because, you know, if you're at if you're at the run clubs, if you're involved on social media and people can relate to things in the background and stuff like that, it does help. You know, especially when I'm sitting here in the middle of Iowa, if you could see what's outside my window, like, but in a couple of months that probably will all change. I think that is the beauty in growing up, and that is the beauty in entering a new phase in our lives, is that a lot of stuff is going to change. And one thing I hope remains is this brand and this podcast. Because again, I've got so much value out of it. I love when people text me and say, yeah, I learned this, or this was good, or even come at me saying, like, I don't agree with what you said. Like, fuck. As long as it starts conversations, that's what we want to do. And like I said, I love when people from back home, people from wherever, follow the brand, or reshare, or just sharing with their friends, or sharing with their mom, or whatever. And I think that is pure value. Like, that is what we love to hear and love to see, when people just come at us and say, like, this was good, this got me thinking, this sparked a conversation with me and my girlfriend, or me and my best friend, who I don't really talk about this type of stuff with. And I don't know, he asked me a question about my mental health, that if we weren't one to one, if we were in our big group of lads, and someone said, "Oh, I'm not feeling too well," they might say, "I grow up. Let's go for a pint or whatever." Blah blah blah, and just gloss over the fact that maybe this person is sick, and this person needs help. And if your friend comes to you and says that shit to you, like, it shows so much strength for them to be able to say that, and so much trust in you for them to be able to come to you and say that. And in a way, we hope to become, and we're trying to become, the friend that you can maybe say that to, and we can hopefully point you in the right direction. Definitely, we're not saying we're fucking psychiatrists or psychologists or whatever, counselors. We're not them. Like, we're definitely not them. We're just trying to talk about our situations and what's happened to us, and learn from those lessons, and then pass those lessons on to people who maybe need that bit of help before the actual help, in terms of counselling, things like that. Because it does take a lot of courage to go to counselling, and I think it's definitely needed for a large portion of our age group. But like I said, it takes a lot of courage, and we want to break the stigma around that. And I think we are doing it. Like I said, there's comments there's texts that we get, and it's great to see. It really is. We love that more than the 1K sitting on the screen. I don't know about you, but if you've ever sat to yourself and spoke to yourself in the mirror for 30 minutes, your voice does get a bit fucking sore, I tell you. But yeah, I think I just wanted to make this episode just to put a stake in 2024 and capture this little milestone that we've achieved as a moment in time, and a moment in time that I'm very grateful for, and very happy about, because it shows that we've maintained some sort of consistency. We have grown, we've learned, we've adapted, we've sacrificed a lot of things this year to be able to grow this. And I really do feel like, with what we've achieved this year, we can achieve so much more in the next 12, 24, 36 months. So I think I'll probably leave it there before my voice cuts off and before I end up telling stories. But yeah, whoever's listening, I appreciate every single one of the downloads, and every single one of the people who listen to us every week. And we're so happy that you're enjoying, and we're so happy that we're providing some sort of value, because if we weren't, you wouldn't stick around. So thank you again. I really do appreciate every single one of you who tune in. And like I said, 2025 is going to be a massive year for me, for Kieran, for the podcast, for the brand, and I'm grateful to have you all as a part of it. So, new episode coming soon with some guests, hopefully, and I'll fill you in on the Instagram. And yeah, I guess we'll chat then. See you later.